All right, y'all. Welcome to the show. The day is here. It is officially Election Day. We got a lot of stuff to get to. Obviously, I'm excited for tonight to see how it unfolds. I'll have my normal show for you the day after the election. I'll probably record some updates here and there where necessary while the election is occurring. But, man, it's a big day. It's a big day. So in just a second, I'm going to show you exactly how the race stands, and maybe it'll be some indication of what's to come. For those of you who haven't seen, yesterday I already dropped my prediction video. Definitely go take a look at that. Hasn't changed since yesterday, but I'll tell you where the race stands now. Then we'll get to Trump. I mean, look, his rallies are kind of fizzling out, and he's progressively become more and more deranged and demented. I have a clip for you. He was riffing about journalists getting shot at a rally the other day. I have an amazing video that More Perfect Union did where they went with Tim Walz to go speak to some Trump voters in swing states, and Tim Walz flips them in real time. We'll get to a story that really highlights what this election might ultimately be about, which is a devastating story of a Texas teenager who died after being denied an abortion 3 times. We'll get to Cardi B destroying Elon Musk. That's always fun. Kamala absolutely pounces on Mike Johnson because he shoved his foot in his mouth and said something incredibly stupid just before the election. And Alex Jones has his thoughts on what's going to happen after the election that I want to share with you. All right. So without any further ado, we'll jump into it. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time. Costs you absolutely nothing. You can like the video. You can leave a comment. Thank you to everybody who supports this show on Patreon or tips on YouTube. Remember, guys, we are actual independent media here. I've never had a conversation with an advertiser or a corporation or a billionaire or a foreign government. You guys fund this show on Patreon, and we get the default ads on YouTube. Very proud that that's the way that we fund this show. Have not sold out, and I'm very proud of that, especially since I've been doing this for over a decade. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it. So let me start with this. So Trump had a rally yesterday early. He did 2 rallies yesterday, I believe, but yesterday early he had a rally. And look at this, man. This is, I don't know if we've ever seen this vis-a-vis Trump. He really does seem to be fizzling out. Look at, he was supposed to start the speech at 10. This was 10:06, and look at what the arena looks like.
I want to show you guys real fast what this crowd looks like, because Donald Trump was scheduled to take the stage at 10 a.m., and our Tony Butler is going to show you what this crowd currently looks like. We're looking at about a capacity about 70% full here. And for 9 years, I'm going to have Tony pan to the right. For 9 years, we have talked about the enthusiasm in the masses that have come out for Trump's rallies time and again, even at his politically lowest points, including in 2022. But interestingly, and I can't tell you exactly why, but in this final week, we have seen far smaller crowds. We were in Greensboro, North Carolina, where just a few thousand people. Macon, Georgia, just a few thousand people yesterday. What does that mean? Ultimately, you can only discern so much from what crowd sizes look like. But interestingly, for the first time since I've been covering Donald Trump since 2015, there's been us in the press that have been looking around questioning why the crowd sizes have been less than what we are accustomed to. There are some people that have suggested that a great many folks have already early voted, so they feel like they've done their thing. They don't got to come out. Others have said, look, he's been to North Carolina so many times. It's essentially saturated at this point, but at this point in time, it's hard not to take any little clue that there is from early voting locations to the rallies where we're accustomed to seeing him draw thousands of people. Today, that's not so much the case. We'll see what the next 3 rallies look like, though, guys.
Did the fever break? Did the fever break? That's my question for you guys. There are some indications that the fever has broken. By the way, Trump has been spending a tremendous amount of time in North Carolina, and the speculation is his internal polls in North Carolina look like a disaster. Okay, he needs North Carolina to win. He needs it. He knows that. And he won North Carolina over Biden, I want to say by like 2 points, but Kamala is up in North Carolina. She's way stronger in North Carolina than Biden was. And so he's been there a lot, which is, it's a sign. It's a sign, right? So I'll also show you this. Marist had a big poll. By the way, in that poll, it looks like everybody finally stopped hurting when that Czer poll came out, the Des Moines Register poll, and it had Kamala +3 in Iowa. In Iowa. It looked like that broke the fever for the pollsters, too, when they were like, hey, Let's stop lying and cheating and pretending it's 49-49 and everything's equal. Let's do some real polls now. So this Marist poll has Kamala +4 nationally. Okay, but look at this. After the votes are counted, if the candidate you support is said to have lost and their opponent is the winner, should your candidate accept the results or challenge the results? Ready? So let's start with the Kamala voters. 85% of Kamala voters say accept it. If you lose, right? Trump voters, 55% say accept it. 43% say challenge the results. In other words, Trump has primed his voters way more that never accept a loss. If we lose, we didn't actually lose. It was rigged. It was fraudulent. It was unfair. They cheated, yada, yada. Let's try to stop it by any means necessary. Guys, it's hard for a democracy to continue when one side keeps priming their voters to never accept it if they lose, right? The Democrats, for all of their flaws, this is nearly 90%, 9 out of 10, saying, yeah, if you lose, you lose. What are you going to do, right? Again, it's a little more than half of Republicans that say accept it, which means nearly half of them say reject it. And by the way, we haven't even talked about, what is it, 60, 70% believe the last election was stolen, even though it wasn't? Damn. So that's a wild poll. It's kind of a scary poll, too, given where we're at. So look at this, guys. I just brought up that Marist poll. Again, Kamala +4 overall. Look at this. Final PBS NPR Marist poll shows Harris wiping out Trump's lead among men. Trump is down from +16 among men last month to just +4 now. A 12-point swing. A 12-point swing in Kamala's direction with men. Harris still leads among women by double digits, +11. So look, if Kamala can keep the gap with men to roughly where Biden was, right, then and win more women, then that looks good. That looks good for her. I think Hillary lost men by 11 points. This is Kamala only down 4 points with men to Trump. So again, I come back to the same question. Did the fever break? Look, it's kind of crazy to point out, but it's true that rally in Madison Square Garden, it really does appear to have hurt the Trump campaign. For whatever reason, that Puerto Rico joke broke through, the Tony Hinchcliffe thing, and the speaker calling Hillary Clinton the devil and the Antichrist. And there was one speaker who said that all Democrats are degenerates and lowlives and Jew haters. And there was Rudy Giuliani calling all Palestinians terrorists from when they're 2 years old and up. They're taught to kill us. And Trump has been leaning into the enemy within, the enemy within. He's running a campaign on grievance and retribution and revenge. And it looks like people are just finally fucking sick of it. It does. His numbers are tanking among men. And, Crystal made an interesting point. She says, did doing the whole podcast sphere, the whole Rogan bro sphere, did that backfire? Because, Republicans love to slam identity politics, but they play white identity politics and they play male identity politics, and it's pretty fucking heavy-handed. And, from my perspective, I think that men have just, you look at the two campaigns, and after a while with Trump, it's just you're kind of a psycho, right? You're kind of out there. You're really extreme. And that could just make you go, you know what? Enough with this. All right, so let's continue here. Now, we talked about the Iowa Czer Poll, had Kamala +3. The reason why that matters is if Trump was leading by 7 or less, that would be a bad poll for him. If that poll was Trump +7, that would be a bad indicator for the entire election for the Trump team. Because if he's only up 7 in Iowa, that means he's really questionable in other swing states, okay? But to put this in perspective for you, how amazing that poll was for Kamala, look at this. So this is the final Czer Poll findings versus the actual results, okay? In 2022, her poll had Republicans +12. The final result was Republicans +12. In 2020, for president, it had Trump +7 over Biden. The final result was Trump +8 over Biden. In 2020, the Senate was Republican +4. The result ended up being Republican +7. Okay, that's her biggest miss yet, and it's a 3-point miss. That's it. Okay, more. 2018 governor race had it Democrat +2. It was Republican +3. So that's her biggest miss. 5 points. 5-point miss. Okay, here we go. 2016 for president, it had Trump +7 over Hillary. The result was Trump +9 over Hillary. 2014 for Senate, it was Republican +7. The final result was Republican +8. 2012 for president, it had Obama +5 over Romney. The result was Obama +6 over Romney. Her record is phenomenal. This record has Kamala +3 in Iowa. Look, this was the biggest thing that took me from... I kept going back and forth between like small Kamala win and bigger Kamala win, right? And in the back of my mind, maybe Trump could eke it out, barely. But when I saw this poll, I went, no, I think it's probably going to be a bigger Kamala win. All right, more. Des Moines Register poll has Trump +18 versus Biden in Iowa. That was in June. Biden was losing Iowa by 18 points. 18. Then in July, late July, Iowa did a 6-week abortion ban that went into effect. And apparently got a lot of media coverage there and people were pissed off about it, right? Then a Des Moines Register poll in September, so just after that, shows 59 to 37% opposition to the new abortion law. 69% among women. 69% of women were against it. And that showed a Trump lead over Harris at just 47 to 43. Then all fall, you had a spending campaign by Democrats on the abortion ban. And now the final Des Moines Register poll has Kamala up 3 over Trump. So in other words, you can really trace a bunch of events, link a bunch of events that led to this logical outcome. Republicans are way out over their skis, and one of the areas where they are for sure is abortion. You can't do a 6-week abortion ban, super draconian, everybody in your state's fucking against it, but you do it without having a backlash. And so again, I want to reiterate, before the abortion ban, this was a state that was Trump +18 over Biden. Now it's Kamala +3 over Trump. Wow, man. Wow. Here's more from that poll. In that poll, the Czer Poll, independent women back Harris by a 28-point margin, 57% to 29%. That's huge. Senior women support her by more than a 2-to-1 margin, 63% to 28%. Guys, senior women usually cut Republican. This is 63 to 28 for the Democrat. Look at this. This is another huge point. Oh, I've been misstating this fact. I was off. I've been saying 95 or 96% of Democrats support Harris. Wrong. 97% of Democrats support Kamala. Only 89% of Republicans support Trump. Now, this person is speculating here and says this is why Kamala wins Florida. So I gave you guys, just to remind everybody, I gave you guys my most bearish take for Kamala, my most direct, most likely take for Kamala, and my most bullish take for Kamala. So for me, the bearish case for Kamala is still Kamala winning 276 to 262, right? So in this scenario, she wins Nevada, loses Arizona, loses Georgia, loses North Carolina, but wins Pennsylvania and the rest of the blue wall. Okay? This is my worst case for Kamala. My most likely case is just she gets all the swing states. So that would be Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and the blue wall. Right? But then I gave you guys my most bullish take for Kamala, and that was this one. She wins all the swing states, plus Iowa, where that poll had her +3, and Florida. This would be just an astonishing message. And it's on the table. I want to be clear about that. It's on the table. I think this one is more likely, Kamala 319, but Kamala 355 is absolutely on the table. So some new interesting nuggets in NBC's new poll this morning. This, to be fair, is from November 3rd, a few days ago. Kamala is +9 on looking out for the middle class, and Kamala is +5 on representing change. In other words, trying to tar her as the incumbent who owns like everything happening now. It didn't work. Kamala is also +10 on bringing the country together. Trump is only earning 9% of black support, lower than the 12% he got in 2020. Now, the reason why that's important is, you know, whenever it's not an election year, you have these polls come out and say, oh, Republicans are getting a bigger share of black voters and Latino voters. But then when the election rolls around, it's like, is it actually going to prove itself when it comes to pulling the lever for them? And I always said, I'll believe it when I see it. Right now, it looks like we're moving more towards, it may have been overstated. It may have been overstated. Okay. Latest ABC News poll has Harris up nationally +3. And even better are the internals. Harris is only losing white women by 4, a group Biden lost by 11 in 2020, and Harris is only losing white men by 11, a group Biden lost by 23 in 2020. Jesus Christ. That's big. That's big. Here we go. Clark County just dropped a partial mail batch of 10,000 ballots, and it was 40% Dem, 40% other, 20% GOP. They are so fucked, meaning Republicans. Late mail is going to bury them. So in other words, the early voting in Nevada included early in-person voting. Republicans like to vote in person. So it looked early on, the first few days, like, oh, wow, Republicans are doing really well in this. There's a problem with it. You're going to run out of old, rural, white Republican voters relatively quickly. That's exactly what happened, right? So they started out up here, then that petered out, and Democratic votes and independent votes have gone up, 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 up. And so I don't think Nevada is going to be close. I think it's going to be Kamala relatively easily. Even though there were misleading news stories early on when the early voting first started, which said, oh, Republicans are doing really well. It was a mirage. It was a mirage. It's the early in-person voting that made it look like they were doing really well. All the old Republicans went out to vote in person the first day. Then that tapered off and the Democrat numbers went up, 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 up. Okay, more. Look at this, guys. This is amazing. YuGov Poll. 1 in 8 women say they have voted differently than their partner without telling them. Holy shit. That's a colossal number. 1 in 8 women. So, look, the takeaway from this is there going to be a sleeper Kamala vote? I think there is. And is that sleeper Kamala vote going to be all different types of women? Different demographics, different age groups? Yes. And again, we're already seeing that in the Czer Poll. This is going to be wild, y'all. All right, here we go. Harris campaign reports the following on Saturday alone. They knocked on 807,000 doors in Pennsylvania. They made 940,000 calls and knocked on 215,000 doors in Wisconsin, made 721,000 phone calls and knocked on 256,000 doors in Michigan. So understand something. This is at the same time, and I'm not kidding about this, this isn't a joke. Trump handed over his canvassing operation to Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk. Those guys don't know what the fuck they're doing. Let's just call a spade a spade. They don't know what the fuck they are doing. There's already been endless stories of, basically Elon's people have sort of scammed him and they did fake registrations and they were all trying to get a piece of that money that he was handing out. And again, Charlie Kirk, these people are not experts and professionals in this. To hand over your canvassing operation to them, apparently they don't have a good list of which doors to knock on, who are likely Republican voters. They ended up knocking on doors that were Democratic voters or getting going to register voters who are not likely to vote. It was just a clusterfuck for the Republicans. So in other words, the ground game for Trump is horrendous. Now, to be fair, the ground game for Trump in 2016 was horrendous and he still ended up winning. But the difference is you have the ground game for Trump is bad this time, but also Kamala's ground game is genuinely good in a way that Hillary's wasn't, because Hillary, very famously, she didn't campaign in some crucial states that she would have needed to campaign in. Kamala and Tim Walz have been everywhere, right? So they're taking Trump seriously as a threat. Okay, look at this. This was on CNN. Voters Tomorrow is projecting record youth voting totals. Michigan up 221%, Pennsylvania up 102%, North Carolina up 53%. Wow. So now, let me play this for you. So just to temper our expectations for a moment, I played you Harry Enton's bullish case for Trump and his bullish case for Kamala. Me personally, I found the bullish case for Kamala more convincing. Basically, the only argument in favor of Trump is the right track, wrong track number, where it's like 25% of the country says, or 28% of the country, whatever the exact number is, says we're headed on the wrong track. The question is, do people blame Kamala for that directly? I think the answer to that is no. When you look at favorability overall, Kamala is way more popular than Trump is in a head-to-head. But here I'm going to tell you what the dominant narrative has been on TV, what the dominant narrative has been from pollsters. To be fair, I think they're hurting and just punting and saying, oh, it's tied, and just running with that, try to protect their reputations, even though I think, ironically, that would hurt their reputation more if it's a big win. But they act like, whoa, we thought it was close. That's still bad for them. Okay, but here we go. This is the stuff that they're saying on CNN now.
It's just tight. I guess that we're familiar to a little bit more blue across these battleground states than we're seeing right now. But look, it's historically tight, right? Arizona's the widest margin at +3 for Trump. Georgia +2, +1 in North Carolina, a tie in Nevada. You come over here, I think the biggest shift is we're used to seeing blue down here, less than a point lead for Harris in Wisconsin, a point lead in Michigan. But it's actually red. We got red in Pennsylvania. If you take the average of polls, again, it's so tight. But it's Trump by barely, less than a point in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But the bottom line is this. This has been a historically tight race. It continues to be a historically tight race. And I really have no real concept of who is going to win on Tuesday. If you, the viewer, do know, please give me a call at 718-POLLSTER, and then you could tell me.
Don't believe it, Harry. I don't think anybody knows. But there is always this race to
Wrong.
270 to see who gets the electoral votes they need to win. What is that looking like?
Yeah, so, essentially, I want to point out a few little things here. If we look right now, sort of in the momentum that we're kind of seeing here. This, I think, kind of gets the point that I was trying to make, a shift perhaps and a little bit of momentum here. If you took an aggregate across the battlegrounds last month, a month ago in October 1, I can't believe that was a month ago, it was Harris by less than a point. You'll look here now on November 1, it's Trump by less than a point across the battleground states. But the key thing to keep in mind is that the average state polling miss is this. It's 3.4 points. So when you see stuff like this and you're going from less than a point to less than a point, you could say maybe there's a slight hint of Trump momentum, but that is well within any margin of error, Sarah. That's well within any margin of error.
This is just so tight. Nobody should be making any predictions, is what you're saying.
Nobody should
Wrong.
be making any predictions, but I'm going to just kind of show you what's going on here in terms of that map that you asked me. Look, Donald Trump, 281 electoral votes, right? If we take it across, because he gets here on the East Coast, right? He gets Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. He gets Arizona, Nevada, way too close to call. Gets to 281. But what happens, sir? What happens? I mentioned that 3.4 points. Yeah. What if you get a polling miss that benefits Kamala Harris? Well, then she wins all of these states, all these battlegrounds. Here as well on the Southwest, you get Kamala Harris to 319. But the polling miss could go the other way, right? And then Trump gets all these states, and you get Trump to 312 electoral votes. So the bottom line is this, Sarah Seidner. I didn't know who's going to win on Monday. I don't know who's going to win on Friday. I'm not going to know until the votes are cast and the ballots are counted. This election is historically close. And again, if you know who's going to win, please give me a call so I can actually inform the audience.
So here's why I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because there was no comment there about, number one, the major pollsters who are supposedly the most reputable herding, which means basically punting and calling it 50-50, right? Or 1 point up here, 1 point down here. They don't mention that. And they also don't mention there is an entire cottage industry of Republican pollsters whose sole job is to pretend like Republicans are up way more than they are, right? Now, to be fair, people say, well, those pollsters were the most correct in 2020. But what they don't tell you is they were the most incorrect in 2022, which is more recent, when everybody and their grandma said there was going to be a massive red wave, a historic red wave. All those pollsters said, the biggest red wave you've ever seen. And it wasn't. It was barely a red trickle. Democrats massively overperformed. Okay, so if you have one cottage industry of like 10 different pollsters that are right-wing hack pollsters who are lying, and then the reputable pollsters are just punting and calling it 50-50, it's giving you a misleading picture of a super close race, or if anything, Trump is slightly up. When all of the real data we have, if anything, is showing the opposite. Namely, there's one super thorough poll from YuGov. They are not herding. They did 48,000 likely voters, and they found Kamala +4. The Czer Poll had Kamala +3 in Iowa, a state she should be losing by 10 points. And then you have the early voting numbers, which have been very good for Kamala and the Democrats. And so this is what they're saying. I'm way more bullish on Kamala than they are, which is why my bad map for Kamala, as I pointed out, is Kamala 276. My good map for Kamala is Kamala 355, where she wins Iowa and Florida. Okay. Where was I? Let's keep going here. Okay, Predict It is one of the betting markets that is not totally consumed by foreign crypto whales, and they have Kamala up, but it's 51-49. So the betting markets are super tight. A lot of people bring up Polymarket. Polymarket is an offshore crypto betting thing. So, and you have, Musk tweeted about it and got a bunch of his little sycophantic crypto weirdo bros to go bet a lot of money on Trump. And so this is part of their strategy, by the way. Make it seem like Trump is inevitable. Then if Trump loses, they are going to cry foul and say the election was stolen and basically try to steal it themselves. But so a lot of the betting markets had Trump up pretty big, like, 65%, he's up, right? And that's always been bullshit. It's always been bullshit. And this is a betting market that's not consumed by foreign crypto whales, and it has Kamala as a slight favorite. By the way, in recent days, it's almost like the fever's broken a little bit, and you've had some more real polls like that Marist poll that came out. And I got to be honest, I think it was the Ann Selzer thing that made other pollsters go, oh, we're going to look ridiculous if we have this 50-50 and Kamala wins 355 electoral votes. So now it's like at the last minute, they might be trying to course correct a little bit. Okay. Senior Harris campaign staff says their internal data shows Harris winning battleground state voters who have made up their minds in the last week by double-digit margins. Late breakers going to Kamala by double digits. They say that Trump's MSG rally was the last straw for late-breaking undecided voters. I don't know if I have any of these numbers up here right now, but I've seen polls now of Puerto Rican Americans and Hispanics, and the numbers are overwhelming that they're like, yeah, no, I'm not voting for Trump now. I was on the fence. Now I'm not going to vote for Trump. I'm going to vote for Kamala. There's a lot of that going on. For whatever reason, that broke through. All right, more. Might be the biggest thing I show you guys in this segment. This might be the biggest thing. You ready? Early voting in swing states by gender. Ready? Arizona, 52% female vote, 46% male vote. Nevada, 50% female vote, 48% male vote. Pennsylvania, 56% female vote, 44% male vote. Georgia, 56% female vote, 44% male vote. North Carolina, 55% female vote, 45% male vote. Michigan, 55% female vote, 45% male vote. Wisconsin, 55% female vote, 44% male vote. Kamala is crushing among women, and there are way more women voting. In other words, if you're the Trump campaign, the math ain't mathin', bro. The math is not mathin'. How are you supposed to win if she's up big with women and women are voting way more? You tell me. You tell me. So, look, we're all going to find out together, right? But again, I want to warn you guys right now. Yeah, you need to understand this. It is very likely we have a red mirage scenario again. The red mirage scenario is they usually count, in most of the states, they count the votes from Election Day first. If you do that, it's going to look like Trump and the Republicans are up a lot, right? But then when the mail-in votes come in, Democrats win the mail-in votes by a very large margin. So it'll look like Republicans are out to a big lead, and then the Democrats will close the gap, and eventually surpass the Republicans. Very overwhelmingly likely Kamala wins the popular vote. But also I would say likely she wins the Electoral College. But it's going to look early on like, oh my God, the Republicans are winning. Trump is winning. What I fear is going to happen, in fact, I put money on the fact that this is going to happen, is Trump is going to come out and try to claim victory when they're still counting the votes and they're early on in the voting process by saying, look how much I'm up, and anything that comes in now is fake. Anything that comes in now is a fraudulent vote. So I'm afraid that's going to happen. It's going to be incumbent on the Democrats to scream bloody murder. It's going to be incumbent on the media to call spade a spade and say Trump is lying and he's trying to steal it. It's going to be incumbent on other Republicans to say, I'm not going along with this again. I'm not doing it. But I don't know what they're going to do. But that's what everybody needs to look out for. That could very well be happening later tonight. What I just described can be happening later tonight. We're all going to find out together. But there you have it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.